So first question I have for you, how does Cassandra differ from traditional relational databases?
So Cassandra differs in a way that you don't build a relational schema fixed data model. You can create columns and column families and store data in a more flexible format. With the ability to store it in that more flexible format, you lose some of the capabilities to have keys across multiple tables like you would in a relational database. Here with the columns and column families, you would pull maybe slices of data out and then process that on the application server rather than asking the database server to organize it for you.
Okay. So what types of sites and services work best with Cassandra?
So it's very good for large-scale sites where you're going to have a significant amount of similar type of data. So some of the big adopters on this have been Twitter, Dig, Facebook uses it for some of their applications as well. I mean, they were the original folks behind it. So where you have maybe a user account associated with something and then some content tied to that, to where it's not a large data schema layout with small amounts of data in each sort of chunk of it. That's a better relational model. If you have thousands of tables and maybe only 100 or 1,000 or 5,000 rows per table, this is where you want to have a smaller sort of schema and layout of the way you organize your data, and then a whole bunch of millions of records in there, or billions of records in it.
So is there a tipping point for a site or a service moving to Cassandra?
Yeah, so in the talk I gave yesterday at Velocity, really we're looking at this as if you don't have enough data to run an 8-node cluster, this is kind of my personal view at the minimum, and you're looking at starting at around 25 gigs of data per node as the sort of base cutoff point, a couple hundred gigs of data in your environment as the beginning, and then if you're not looking to grow to terabytes and hundreds of terabytes of data, you probably are better off staying with a more mature, easier to use and implement technology. And this stuff promises a lot of great things for the future, and if you have a great operations team like the folks do that are running this in production today, then you're going to get significant benefits if it fits your needs and your business there.
Great. So now I know you're involved in the cloud community as well. I want to know, why are open standards so important for cloud computing?
So with cloud computing and any sort of computing movement, and really, I mean, anything else, in even just broader across society, people are afraid to commit to something if they feel like they're going to go do that and get trapped with it. So this is where the clouds right now, it's kind of early out there. There's a lot of different technologies that are all sort of similar, and people are afraid to make big resource commitments. They may do some side projects on it. They may run some departmental apps. If you're building a brand new business from scratch and you that is your entire company, there's some interesting things being done on the cloud already. But for sort of the mainstream IT market, they look at this and wonder, like, how is all the dust going to settle out on this? And they feel sort of burned over history with, we come out with Apple Talk or DECnet or IPX networking, and then I have to tear all that stuff out and put in this TCP/IP networking stuff, and then I've just this constant sort of churn and change at the major infrastructure level there. And until we have some open standard where they feel like that they can go move their IT environment from where it is today to this cloud type of technology, they're going to be slow and hesitant to go do that from fear of, like, I'm going to do it and then 6 months later I'm going to have to go do it again.
Sure. Now, towards that end, I mean, do you think that we'll get to that point where companies will rely on cloud resources instead of building out their own infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, if the power industry analogy is one that gets used fairly commonly here, is that people used to have your own windmill, you'd build your own generator. There was no centralized power grid and network. And the thing that's really enabling and driving the cloud computing is this globally connected network fabric that we have now, to where you can have a wireless device, you can have your computer anywhere. If you don't have that connection to the internet at this point, you almost feel like you're missing something. And if we look back 10 or 15 years ago, like, you had to go sit down at some terminal somewhere and dial up on a modem probably to get on the internet, and it was really inconvenient. And with that, as the internet gets more and more available, as we get to these 4G and faster networks, the cloud's going to become more important. And then one of the things Tim talks frequently about is just data and the whole open data concept. And so these data stores are going to get built out there in the cloud. And in order to have access to those data stores, you're going to want to put your application next to the data, because the data is getting so big, it's very hard to move around, and because of that, you're going to see more adoption over time.
Great. Well, thanks very much for being with us. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.